Happy Saturday, everybody. I just want to come at you this morning and remind you that the Detroit Lions got the guy that everybody wanted, and we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive. This feels almost like an off-season video, but before we get into that, before we get into a fun story that I was just reading, Jamir Gibbs appeared on the Richard Sherman, I don't know if it was a radio show, I don't know if it's a podcast, but he had some really unique things to say, and we're going to get into that. The guy everybody else wants. But before we do that, also, hey, in the future, all right, of this video, we're going to talk about our injury report. A couple people were added to it. Nothing for too big of a concern, but we're going to look at the injury report against the Jags to see if indeed that trap game will actually exist. I don't think it does. So let's have a fun conversation here to start this off. And then I got a big question for you guys. The 2023 NFL draft. Is there anybody else you would have rather seen the Lions take than Jamir Gibbs? And I don't think so, but I'm just going to do some reminding of it. So first, he said he was on this podcast, this show, and he said, I knew for a fact that Dallas was going to get me at 26. Oh, those Cowboys. Like, would have been a great pick. But the fact that they thought Jamir Gibbs was going to be available at 26 is funny to me. Gibbs said this. He said a couple other places like Cincinnati was going to get me. I think they were going to trade up like 18 or something around that range, but I didn't think I was going to go 12. I ain't going to lie. All right? He didn't think he was going to go 12, and this isn't the first time we've heard of people and teams admitting that they were going to get it. Brad Holmes talked about getting Gibbs at number 12 and how they were thinking about waiting till 18, but they didn't feel good about it, that the Jets were going to get him in the middle of that. So here's what I wanted to do for a second. Because drafting a running back at 12, some people view as controversial. Now, remember, our original pick was number 6. Our original pick was number 6 in that year. And so I want to start at number 6, and I want to see if there's any other player that you would rather have in this draft in the first round than Jamir Gibbs. And remember, not all drafts are created equal. As I went back and I looked at this draft class, I was like, oh, this is not nearly as good as the draft class that just came out. I really don't think it is. And maybe it's because the draft class that just came out is phenomenally talented on the offensive side of the ball. But even this, players that I'm just like, no, this ain't it. So we traded away the number 6 pick. The Cardinals end up taking Paris Johnson Jr. No, thank you. Tyree Wilson goes to the Raiders after that. He still has not panned out. Then Bijan Robinson. There's the question. Would you rather have Bijan than Jamir? My answer is a resounding no. I think Bijan's a great running back. I really, really do. I just think Jamir Gibbs has a different level that even Bijan doesn't have. And then we get to our first player where it's like, okay, I could think about this. All right, Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter, Georgia defensive tackle. Here's the thing. We have good defensive tackles. We've figured that position out very, very quickly. Aleem McNeil, Jalen Carter is kind of a toss-up at this point. So, yeah, I don't know about that. I do remember all the problems that were happening coming out, but is he someone you would have rather had? You have Darnell Wright, offensive tackle, not a position of need. Peter Skoronski, pick 11. That's a really high sign pick for a guard because that's what he's playing for the Titans right now. There you have us with Gibbs. Then Green Bay goes Lucas Van Ness, Broderick Jones, Will McDonald. Like, I'm not wrong. This is the team that everybody said was going to take Jamir Gibbs, by the way, was the Jets. The Commanders go Forbes. They don't like him in Washington. He has not been playing well. Christian Gonzalez to the Patriots. Man, if he had slid one more to us, that would have been nice. But Jack Campbell is playing good ball right now. Kalijah Kancey, Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnson. Are you seeing anything that you would rather have than Gibbs? Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Deontay Banks, Dalton Kincaid, Mozzie Smith. All right, love me some Michigan players. That has not panned out. Anton Harrison for the Jags. Get to see him tomorrow. All right, Miles Murphy. Nope. All these guys that we talked about. Brian Bresee, Nolan Smith. All right, look at this. Nothing. So again, I want to remind you that I think there were a large handful of teams that absolutely wanted Jamir Gibbs, but we were able to do the weird thing, which is to trade down and still get the guy that we wanted. I know Brad Holmes talked about how he almost got him at 6. All right, now let's talk about what's going on today. Let's talk about what's going on with our team this week. The Detroit Lions injury report. There is one unfortunate injury to report, and that is Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta did not get any practices in this week, and now he is out for the game. Unsurprisingly, Dan Campbell said this earlier in the week, all 3 guys that are designated for return in a 21-day window, Broderick Martin, Ifeatu Melifonwu, and Emmanuel Moseley, all of them will not be playing for the game. The Emmanuel Moseley thing to me is very, very interesting because he has been a full practice in every single practice this week, and I want to say even last week, but he's still not playing in the game. Part of that is probably just how well our corners are playing to an extent, but also just making sure that they don't rush him back. You don't want anything to happen like last time. The guy just can't catch a break when it comes to injuries. Now, here's the interesting plot twist to me. Ben Niemann is questionable. All right. And then Malcolm Rodriguez, however, is back. So it looks like he's listed on the injury report, limited practice on Wednesday, 2 full practices Thursday, Friday. The back-to-back full practices is a really, really good sign. Looks like he's going to be back. Taylor Decker does not have an injury designation necessarily. He's on the injury report, but he doesn't have a game designation. So you can expect Taylor Decker to be back after doing the exact same thing Rodriguez did. Now, if we look on the other side, not as many injuries that are keeping players out for the Jacksonville Jaguars. However, there are a couple. All right, they are going to be a 1 running back team instead of the 2-headed monster of Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. It looks like Etienne is finally healthy, but as soon as they got Etienne fully healthy, Tank Bigsby's out. So that's going to hurt them. They need to be able to run the ball, which isn't easy against the Lions in the first place because Trevor Lawrence is out. He's not practicing. Jacksonville has a bye week next week. They're hoping that he can come back after that bye, but he is out. Brian Thomas Jr. does not look to be holding a questionable tag, which means that he will play. He's been limited in practice for multiple weeks due to a chest injury. But at the same time, he has played in those last 2 weeks. So Brian Thomas Jr., look out for him. He is a good wide receiver. I think the big guys who get all the attention are Malik Neighbors and Maserati Marvin Harrison. Brian Thomas Jr. is and even Odunze. Brian Thomas Jr. has quietly put together the second best rookie wide receiver campaign of all the receivers so far. I would say that Brian Thomas Jr. has put together a better rookie campaign than Marvin Harrison. Neighbors is unquestionably the best so far, but Brian Thomas Jr. has put together a really, really good rookie campaign. Keep an eye on him. Hopefully we'll pay a ton of attention to him because otherwise it's just Gabe Davis. Christian Kirk is already out. So it's basically stopping Evan Ingram and Brian Thomas in the passing game. And you can do that by taking away short and intermediate routes when you're playing Mac Jones. So I do like the matchup for us. But just remember, I would expect Montgomery actually to get the bulk of the carries in this one because Gibbs was very busy in the last game. It just felt like it was more of we need to have the threat of run pass. So Gibbs was in the game a lot in the second half. I would expect Monty to get a heavy workload in the first half to tire down this Jags defensive front and then see Gibbs ready to pop one in the second half. That's honestly what I feel is going to happen here. All right, Lions got the guy everybody wanted. Injury statuses aren't great, but they're coming at a good time. If Laporta needs to miss a game on the offensive side, it's against the Jags. All right, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.